Welcome to the channel, everyone. Today, I guess I'm going to kind of bring you up to date on the 70 Camaro project and show you a few things we've gotten for it. So we've been running the Blueprint 396 on the run stand, so it's pretty much ready to go in. We might run it a few more times, but I feel like it's fine and it's ready to go in. So to get the car ready for the new engine, you can see I've been looking up some wiring diagrams. Actually, in here, before I put the engine in, I want to get the wiring on the firewall took care of, because we had some wires that were just kind of loose. They didn't go to anything, and we didn't kind of know what was going on there. So I had to look them all up, figure out what we needed, what we didn't need, and so what we did was we got a new harness. This is the old harness, and this harness actually plugs into the back of the fuse block, I believe. Now there's two pieces to this. You can see there's an extra square there. Well, there's two harnesses, two main harnesses that are in the engine bay. This one here, they call it, I believe, the engine harness, because it runs the starter. Actually, it runs some of the gauges, and it powers the coil. So that's the engine harness, and it, like I said, it plugs in down there, behind there, into the fuse box, and it goes up and around, and it kind of feeds, the starter. It feeds the blower motor, stuff like that, and a few things that we don't have anymore. The second harness that plugs into that fuse block goes right here. You can see it there. There's a wire that goes to the brake, the proportioning valve, and the rest of these wires, they do headlights, go to the alternator, horn. So that's what that second harness, I think they called it the light harness. Not sure. We replaced this one when we was putting the car together. So that one's new. The other one we didn't, but we're going to replace it now. I've got the new harness over here. And what I've done is like I said, there was wires on here that we didn't need, we're not using. We've got this is the idiot light for the oil pressure gauge. We're not going to need that. This is, I believe, the temperature gauge wire. And then there is some other wire here. I believe it went to the carburetor or something like that, the factory carburetor. Long gone. We don't have none of that. So all that's left on here is stuff that we need, except for this wire here. I'm not exactly sure what this black wire does, but I can clip that and tape it up if we need be. But I found this cloth tape that's kind of neat. So I cut the wires that I didn't need, and I actually left a little length on them, so if we ever do need to hook them up, I can hook them back up. I don't know why we would ever do that, but and then I taped them up, so pretty much looks like a factory harness. You'd never be able to tell that I cut some things out of this. This is the piece that goes into the fuse block, and what I've done is, you can see it's kind of got goo all over in there. Well, that's sealing compound, they call it. If you don't seal that up, it's like open. Like if you spray water in the engine bay or whatever, it'll go right through that. So you got to seal that up. Hopefully that's going to harden up, because if it doesn't harden up, it's going to be a mess getting that back in. Yeah, so I'm just letting that dry. Like I said, hopefully it dries so it's not so gooey. And then I'll be able to reinstall that. This here goes to the blower motor, the wires. So some of these go to the wiper motor and stuff like that. So I'm also gonna install this Petronix rev limiter. This has got little dials that you can dial in what you want. We're probably going to set it at 5500 RPM, but it's kind of a neat little rev limiter. It's pretty simple. You've got wires that are going to go to the positive side of the coil, the negative side of the coil, and then you got they got another wire that you can run your tach off of that. Comes with a bunch of connectors, you can see there. So yeah, I think we just want this just for safety. We don't want to over rev the motor. You know, we're not going to be beating on this thing, but you never know. You know, if the tires slip or whatever and you don't shift fast enough, you know, it can climb up there pretty quick. So it's just a little bit of a safety there. We're going to be installing that. Okay, so the final part I want to show you we're going to be adding to the car is this is actually a Dakota Digital dash or gauge cluster. And you Camaro guys are going to notice that this is very, very similar to a factory gauge. Really looks similar. So this comes with a speedo, tach. You got a temperature gauge. You got an oil pressure gauge, which back in '70 there was no oil pressure gauge in the gauge cluster. There was only an idiot light for your oil pressure. No oil pressure gauge in '70. There's volts, and then also in '70 they didn't have volts, they had amps. So this is a nice upgrade. And then obviously you got the fuel, which they had the fuel gauge. So yeah, nice tach, 150 mile per hour speedometer. Like I said, this is Dakota Digital. This is not, there is nothing mechanical about this. You can see the back there, there's just a plug-in. This is all electronic. Really nice piece, really expensive. You can change your lighting on this. It's, you know, it's LED. You can have all kinds of different colors. They got a really neat, I believe they call it an incandescent mode, which it kind of makes it look old, like it's got the older lights in it, which is kind of neat if you want to stay with that old look. I don't know what we're gonna do. We'll play with it, maybe see what we like. But with this gauge, obviously you get a big book because this thing can do a lot. It's really, really neat. There's the harness that plugs in to, you plug the gauge into this box right here. And this is your kind of your brain box where everything, you run your tach, your power, your turn signals, dimmer lights, you know, everything goes to that. So we got to find a spot for that under the dash. And then another bunch of stuff that comes with it is you get an oil pressure gauge, you get a temperature, oil pressure sender, temperature sender, and right there is a speedo. It's a deal that turns your mechanical speedometer into electrical. And then, so with that, you've got 3 harnesses here, 3 separate harnesses, water temperature gauge, oil pressure gauge, and then your mile per hour, your speedometer cable, because it's gonna turn it to electronic. And what's neat about that is it doesn't matter what kind of gears you have, tire size, none of that matters. You calibrate it when you drive. You just got to know. I think you got to put down 1 mile. You got to know how far 1 mile is, and then you drive that, and you push a button or whatever at the end of it, and it'll calibrate your speedometer. So that's really, really neat. No more guessing, and no more maybe we were running like a GPS on the windshield, so no more of that. We're gonna have an accurate set of gauges. Should have a very accurate set of gauges. We no longer need the 3. He had 3 gauges that were down on the bottom side of the dash. We don't need that because we got the oil pressure gauge here, and I feel like this temperature gauge should be very accurate too. So we don't need to add any more gauges. Everything's going to be right here, right in front of you. So that's kind of another reason we went with this. But this is really going to be nice. I can't wait to get this thing in there. You know, the old gauges that he had, you know, they're neat, but, you know, they were very old. You know, you're talking 70 something. I don't know. I don't think they were all original to the car, but they're still all very, very old. And these are new. They're electronic. Yeah, like I said, should be very accurate enough that we don't need to add any more gauges. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what you get in the box with this. I got this grommet here. Hopefully, all these wires, I'm going to run these through the old speedometer cable hole, which is big enough, more than big enough for all 3 of these cables to go through. So that's nice. No drilling holes. I'm just going to run my grommet here, and we'll put them through that. So it should be a pretty clean install. Hopefully this adapter, this Speedo adapter, works with the Tremec 5-speed, but we'll see. I'm not gonna install it right now, but just kind of showing you guys a few parts and where we're at with the car. So I guess that's gonna do it. Yeah, it's gonna do it for this one, guys. Hopefully we get this motor in here soon, because I can't wait. I guess I'll see you guys.